Oh,
I'm the
man.
same way. It's like even listening back to your work. It's like, no. Sometimes I need a moment.
Yeah, for sure. But sometimes it's good, right, to listen to old stuff.
I get yelled at for that, especially when I record with Vinny because I kill things and I listen to them too much. Like I'll lay down like a quick kind of demo with him, and then I'll just listen to it all day, every day. But it helps me kind of understand my performance and how I can improve.
Right.
But then all of a sudden I'm just nitpicking, because it's like editing, not much melodyne, so it's also like the worst quality, I guess it could be. So he's like, stop listening to it. That's not how it's going to end up sounding. And I'm like, I know, but I need to. And then a week later, I'm like, oh, this sounds like shit.
Yeah.
Don't want to hear it. So I have to be careful with that all the time. I'm like, I listen to it like a few times a week instead of all day, every day.
You set pretty high standards then for
I
yourself.
do. And I think that's why I set myself back a lot, and I'm very like, it's that perfectionist in me and how I was raised. And it's really hard to like unlearn that behavior. Cause it really fucks with me. And it's like, and then my own music, it just never seems like it'll be good enough, because I'm not happy with it. And it's like, what is good enough? And I think that's something we all struggle with. You're a musician, you get it, and you make your own music. You're your own worst critic. And I think I'm way too hard on myself, especially when I first started and stuff didn't sound like the stuff on the radio, And I was like, oh, that's it. I'll never be good enough, Never gonna happen. So that's something I've had to kind of train myself to get out of. Like, nothing is ever gonna be perfect. And even hearing songs back that me and Vinny finished, it's like, oh, how did I not notice that one way I said that word, or that weird breath, I wish I would have taken it out. And I think it's just, there's a lot of learning to let go, I think, in our industry. And that's the beauty of being a creative.
But how do you learn to let go? That's really tough, right? Especially, like you said, being a perfectionist and wanting the best out of yourself. Not even for anybody else, but just for you,
Therapy. I just started therapy actually, I think in the beginning of this new year. I thought I feel like I've always needed it, but I've always been that person, again, that was raised that you have to figure all your problems out on your own. If you ask for help, you're weak, and all that good stuff. And so for me, asking for help was a bad thing. And that's kind of led me into my journey of going back to school for audio, was just finally asking for help from someone. And then the doors, everything just opened for me.
Oh, okay. So wait, so you started as a musician, a singer?
Yeah. So I grew up doing a lot of musical theater. So I always knew I liked to sing, always sung. I did like pageant competitions when I was little, always did the talent, always was a singer, knew that's kind of what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a performer, practicing in front of my mirror with my friends. And I knew I wanted something in the entertainment field. I was always making little videos, acting, just stuff as kids. But the entertainment was definitely where I thrived or felt like most comfortable. Like singing always, like whenever I was upset as a kid, like singing or listening to music was the only thing that made me feel better.
Wow.
And I think I noticed that at like a young age because my childhood life wasn't the greatest. So I had many moments of trying to find things to make me feel better, and music was just the one thing, always my go-to. And I moved around a lot as a kid, and then I ended up in New Jersey, and that's kind of how I got over into this, tri-state area, because I grew up in Massachusetts, for anyone listening.
Where in Massachusetts? I'm very curious.
In the Berkshires, in the middle of nowhere. Western Massachusetts, complete sticks.
Where is that in relation to Worcester?
Like an hour west.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Worcester's kind of more in central, I think south a little bit. Yeah, we're like right on the border of New York, the state line.
Huh.
So, that whole Berkshire. I mean, Berkshire County is huge and takes up that whole western chunk of Massachusetts. But yeah, we are, I think, I lived in Pittsfield for a little bit, and I think the state line was only 10 minutes away, the New York state line. So we were like right on the edge there.
And why did you come to New Jersey?
My mom's job. Which is crazy because growing up, me and my best friend always wanted to live in New York City. And that was like, we didn't know why. We just were infatuated by the city. We're like, we're going to live there one day. And now we both do, which is really, really cool. But it took a lot of struggles to get here. But we are here nonetheless. But yeah, my mom's job, she's in aviation. So she was a corporate flight attendant. And Teterboro Airport, she got a job with flight safety and doing trainings at flight safety. So that is... that brought her over to Teterboro Airport, and I had to start high school fresh in Jersey.
Wow.
But in a way, it was a blessing because the high school I ended up at, Woodridge High, very small suburban high school, but their theater program, even though no one funded us, no one cared about us, which is usually the story for theater kids. But we had such a great community with it. And that really, so I did so much theater and singing and performing in high school. And just made amazing relationships from them and my teachers, my voice teachers in there. Even our biology teacher, he was our composer. He like went to Berkeley for music composition, and he's like an AP biology teacher, and he's absolutely amazing. And it was just such an interesting group of people we had, but we were all so talented and passionate about it that it ended up being a blessing because where I came from in Massachusetts was a huge high school, like humongous. I think I had 500 kids in my class where I came from. So yeah, we had like high schools was really just like you have two in the city, like the town, and it's just
everybody went there.
Yeah, there's two, and if you're on the north and the south side, you go to this one, and if you're on the east and the west, type of deal, you go to this one. So to come to a school where I think my graduating class in high school had 90 kids or something.
Jesus.
So to go from but in a way, I mean, obviously I was pissed off because I was a, hormonal teenager starting a fresh high school. Like, I don't want to be here, Mom. This is not what I want with my life. Right. I had to make all new friends. It was really, really difficult for me in the beginning. But it ended up being a blessing because it was nice to have such a small group of people creating. And then we were all able to see the struggles kind of the industry up front because our high school was all about sports and cheerleading. That was what got funded. They threatened to take away our theater program multiple times.
Wow, Jesus.
Yeah, we did the musical Rent one time, and we got.
What is that?
Yeah, you've probably seen the movie. Sorry, my hair is all like it's hot in here today. Okay. I like woke up sweating. I'm like, and I had to shut my window because the noise. Sorry, guys. Okay. Yeah, you probably seen the movie with like Rosario Dawson, and it's a famous musical, basically about like Bohemia and life in Alphabet City in New York City. I highly suggest if you haven't seen the movie but it's a very powerful story. But it talks about AIDS and transgender and homosexuality and all that stuff. So it's not really appropriate for high school, as they say. So, but we ended up getting approved after all. They took it away from us I remember for like 2 months. And then they ended up letting us do it. But
there you go. Yeah,
that kind of really, that like solidified in me again that like this is what I enjoy doing, because just my parents were divorced, just going navigating through all of that and then moving to a completely different state. It's really tough. And I mean, you've come from a freaking whole different continent, it's like it's really, really difficult.
But in a way, there's a shock, like a adjustment period. Yeah, exactly.
But in a way, it can be a blessing because I know a lot of people who are still in the same area, and I mean, everyone's life is, no one really asked to be here in the first place, but like,
right.
It's nice to get out and be worldly and discover new things and be exposed to new areas and just new cultures and just people in general.
I'd agree with that. You learn so much from just other people's perspective, So,
it's huge. It's huge. I was really blessed to travel a lot too as a kid. So like just being exposed to certain things, it really humbles you.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And I think especially with like my parents' generation, they tried to give us like that perfect life because they didn't have that. And I think a lot of parents try to shelter everyone.
Yeah.
In a way, and I think it's I'm thankful. All the stuff that made me mad as a kid, I guess it's such is life, you know. When you look back, I'm like, well, now I'm so thankful for it.
Yeah, no, I get that. And that's the circle of life, right? It's like you grow up and then you realize, oh shit, I should have made my bed. Like,
I know. I'm like, I'm sorry for being so mean to you, Mom, you know, that I had to make new friends, but God forbid I have more friends, you know. The world isn't ending.
Right, exactly.
But, you know, when you're that kid, you're just like, it's no. My friends are here. I don't want to go anywhere. So I think that was, and me, my friends are like my life. Oh, there's my cat.
Oh, what's his/her name?
Her name is Piano. Funny
Piano?
enough.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Everyone makes fun of me. Some people love it. Some people hate it. So
I think it's pretty cool.
Her name was Callie. She's a semi-feral cat. Well, that was her name when I first got her. She came from the streets of Garfield, New Jersey. So I have been raising a semi-feral cat for the last 4 years.
Wow.
And look how domesticated she is.
She looks fairly domesticated.
You want to say hi?
She's like,
that's her water fountain. She's actually really mad at me because that's her water fountain, and I had to turn it off because it makes so much noise. So she's like, why is there not running water right now?
That's hilarious.
So she's going to be mad at me until the end of this.
Okay, well, you know what? Like, bitch,
feelings
my water.
She just woke up from a nap and she's like, what? Oh yeah, that's an experience for anyone that wants to try to domesticate a feral cat. It's been quite the journey there. So.
Oh my God, I can't. No, I'm not. I don't think I've ever had a good experience with a cat ever. Like I've been scratched by them. I've had cats try to fuck me. I've had it all. Like.
Oh my gosh.
It was like when I was moving around. I needed a place to stay, and a friend of mine says, "I'll just sleep on my couch." And her roommate had a cat, a very young, adorable cat, but like every 30 minutes through the night, it like crawled up on me and tried to do things. And I'm like, I'm leaving. I'm done. It's like, thank you, but I'm so done.
I know when people meet my cat, she's not friendly, but she's a feral cat, you know? So like you can kind of domesticate them, but she's never going to be like a regular domesticated cat. So everyone's just like, what is wrong with your cat? I'm like, she's not a normal cat. You can't come into the situation thinking that she's going to like run up on you and love you, maybe hump you, you know? Like, so she's not normal, but.
So you come to New Jersey and you start kind of like a new, fresh start on life in a way.
Yeah, it really felt like that. And I think it really was. I'm very thankful that I got out of where I grew up. It's a beautiful place to visit, the Berkshires. Gorgeous. Oh, do you hear that doorbell? I swear, every time I'm on a work call, my doorbell rings. It's probably Amazon or something. But
girl, I told you.
We're just going to leave.
Like, we need to keep this as chill as possible. You think I'm wearing pants, don't you?
You think I'm wearing pants, don't you? You see how strategically placed this is?
But then, like, how did you get into, like, audio specifically, like, recording yourself?
So my story sounds kind of lame. So I went to fashion school right out of high school because I chickened out. I wanted to be an actress, right? I wanted to be on Broadway. Mm-hmm. And I chickened out. I didn't have the confidence, didn't really have support behind me. Support is everything. And to get into like NYU Tisch and stuff like that, there's a lot of auditioning and, you know, monologues and all that stuff. And yeah, I chickened out basically. Oh my gosh, they won't let up. So I ended up saying, screw it. I loved fashion. I still do. But I was like, oh, let me go down the fashion route. Mm-hmm. So I got into FIT, the Fashion Institute. And that was like a big accomplishment for me. I did that on my own. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, let's do this. But I went for fashion business. Mm-hmm. I wanted to be a fashion buyer. Mm-hmm. Or so I thought. Yeah. And I learned very quickly that is not what I wanted to do. But again, those stepping stones, like in the moment when I was at FIT, I was so miserable. I just was not happy there. I think it wasn't what I really wanted to do with my life. Like, fashion's fun for me, and it's kind of like a hobby, and it's, you know, like, and it's a part of my life, and I love it, but it's not, I didn't love it enough to, like, fashion industry, if anyone is familiar, is tough. Music industry is very tough, too. Mm-hmm. But fashion industry is, I think, a little bit more ruthless, for sure.
Interesting.
It's a little bit more catty And, like we have some competition in the music industry, but honestly, I haven't really met anyone in our industry that is really like won't share knowledge. And, at least the people I've met, everyone is so willing to help and collaborate and like understands that the underlying love and respect for what we do. And in the fashion industry, it's like, no, this is mine and I am not sharing this knowledge with you. And
interesting.
Yeah, it was really rough for me. I ended up interning at a few places and it was just horrible, just the way people talked to you and treated me. I ended up going in for my internship one day and everyone was gone except for the receptionist girl. And I was like, where is everyone? Like, I was supposed to show up for my shift that day. She's like, oh, you didn't hear? Everyone got let go last night.
God
and I was like, she's like, they didn't send you an email that you don't have an internship basically anymore? I was like, no. So that was how my internship ended. So it's that type of world. And I have one friend, one of the best things that ever came out of FIT, one of my best friends that I still have to this day. But she ended up finishing, and it's hell for her. And just that industry, it's very... I know our industry has a lot of long hours, and but I feel like the fashion industry is like that, but not everyone is, I guess, as understanding or kind to one another. At least that's how it was for me. I mean, that was in 2010, so that's like 11 years ago.
How long did you like tough it out then in the fashion
Only
industry?
for a year. I was a 1-year fashion school dropout. So, and then during that time, I think after I left FIT, I was like, okay, I don't want to do this. And I was paying for a lot of it myself. So I was like, okay, like I wasn't a New York resident. So since it's like a CUNY school, you can get cheaper tuition. But I wasn't. I was a Jersey resident. So I was still paying a lot more than the New York students. I wasn't living there. So it was just a really, really tough time. So I was like, screw it. The smart move is to just not go to school, I was like, let me not end up with all these loans that I maybe am not even going to enjoy this industry in the end, in the end. So I ended up just calling it quits. It was a really, really tough decision to make. And then I just worked. For probably 4 or 5 years, just waitressing, bartending, hostessing. And then I started being a personal assistant for a while. And I remember just sitting on the subway, and this is the lame part of my story. One of the SAE ads, that they have on the subway. Yeah. I'm just like sitting there one day, and I was just so depressed, and I was like, I'm so like just not happy with where I am in my life, and I'm just like staring at the ad, and it's with like the blue microphone, like jumpstart your audio career, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, I'm like, I never in my life ever thought about engineering. And when I'm doing theater, like you're getting mic'd up and I'm friends with all the sound guys and all that stuff. And I'm kind of aware of what they're doing, but I never was interested to sit back there with them, and just see actually what they're doing or how are they connecting their mic to me. And, just like little stuff like that. I didn't really care, honestly, in high school. And just never even occurred to me that would be something I would ever be interested in. And yeah, I remember sitting on the subway that day and looking at the ad, and I was like, let me like look more into this, because I knew I wanted to start singing again, because I kind of gave up on singing. I mean, I sang in the shower and wrote songs here and there, but like I kind of just gave up on that entirely. And it made me really sad, because it was the one thing, like I was telling you, that gave me joy, and it still is the one thing that gives me joy. So it was just like, how can I make a career out of this? What can I do with music? Like, we all know being a starving artist isn't fun. Right. But back then I was like, well, maybe I can record myself. But I had no idea, like never had any idea what the hell I was doing. So I had one friend who actually had went to SAE. And I reached out to him, and he was like, yeah, like if you're interested, I can talk to you about some stuff that we do. And like, but it was kind of just very limited, like kind of talk to me about like interfaces and just a little very minimal stuff. Right. That I was like, my eyes are crossing. I'm like, I don't know what any of this stuff is. What is Pro Tools? What is all this stuff? Yeah. And so I just like did research, and I reached out to SAE, and I was like, I took a tour, and I was like, oh shit, like this is kind of cool. Like I've always been super technical. Like growing up, I was always like the one fixing things for everyone, and my mom, like her computer. So like I have that technical brain. So it was kind of like, whoa, like a spark went off, and I was like, so here's the creative side of me, and I do like technical things. So like maybe this is the the beauty of blending them together.
Yeah.
And so I remember like going on the tour and I was like, I want to do this.
Wow.
I saw the boards and just something sparked in me was like, this is a way that I can be in the industry. Like, because I think even now, like I'm not making money off of my music right now. And it's hard for a lot of us, but you can still be in the industry and still be around that music. Like I just wanted to be in the music scene and be around people.
And I'm sure it kind of like reinvigorated your love for singing and music and all these things that you said that you were like losing out on for so many years.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, my friends were always supportive. We all love music and we all love going out and dancing and stuff like that. But it's different when you're like, because I was 24, so it was like, okay, you're watching everyone else who's just finishing graduating school, where I should have been, and now I'm over here like, shit, I want a career, but like, I don't know what to do. Like I had no idea what to do. So it just, the stars aligned.
That's so crazy though. Like, first of all, I don't know what part of that was lame. That was kind of cool.
Just the subway ad. I feel like it's so. I mean, but that's what they pay for, right? Advertising on the subway. But everyone always makes fun of those ads.
You could look at it like that in a way that it's kind of lame, but like it's also kind of what's the word? What's the word where things? Like, I think you just said it. The stars align,
like
but there's a word for it.
Serendipitous in a way.
Yeah,
kind of. Is that the right word?
serendipitous. Yeah. No, that's good. Like. It's so weird that had to happen. Like you had to be at such a low point, and then this thing kind of just kind of came in front of you. Serendipity. I think that's kind of cool, though. I don't think that's lame.
I guess it is. I never really looked at it like that because it's just been such a. I don't want to say it's been a struggle ever since, but my life is really. Struggling is good. Struggling is good. It makes you stronger. But my life, honestly, I guess when I look back, has ever since I went to SAE, like I said, it's been really, really hard, and school was tough, but. My life is so much. I just feel like I'm living such a more fulfilled life, because it has something to do with something I'm passionate and interested in, and it's just like that whole thing. Like if you do something you love, it'll feel like you're never working, and I always wanted to feel what people were feeling when they were talking about that. And I'm like, well, I don't know how to make ends meet. I have to pay for my, I have no family support, since I was like 18. I'm on my own completely. It's really hard to even going to school, working during school, doing everything on your own. I was living in an apartment by myself, so I have to pay rent. I'm learning a field that is completely new to me. I remember being in my first day of class, just like staring out the window, like, oh my god, I'm gonna jump out. I'm like, what did I get myself into? Like, it was just so much at first. It was so different. I remember my first month, I was just so in over my head, but like, I won't quit. So I was like, I knew I was going to go at this.
You know what? I'm glad you brought that up because Mod 1 is brutal.
It is, especially for someone who doesn't know shit. And I get, and people love to ask me, like, how did you navigate the industry? And that's like everyone's biggest question for me. And it's interesting, I can get into that a little later, but like in the beginning, especially with SAE, the beautiful thing about it is you have people of all ages. All culture, like everything. I had a guy in my class who was like almost 50. Yeah. And then I had a kid in my class who just graduated high school. Right. And then there's me, who's like the 24-year-old fashion dropout that's just like, I like to sing. Yeah. And it's like, it's so many different personalities, but it's if you approach it in a way of like collaboration and that like we're not competing against each other, because I think a lot of people at first I was like, I am overwhelmed, and the kids knew how to use Pro Tools. They knew, like, they were just they've been doing it in their basement for a few years, and then now they wanted to get serious. So for me, I didn't even know what polar patterns were in a microphone. I had no clue. I was so oblivious to it all. I came from the performer side of it. Right. So it's like, I never even really knew what the sound guys were doing. I just knew that it always sounded good. And like, I knew, like, how to keep my hair off my mic and little stuff like that. But like, I really never paid attention to it. So being, like learning frequencies and just all of that stuff, like you're saying in Mod 1, for anyone who's like not familiar with SAE, the way they split their curriculum up, it's great because you need to know those foundational things. You need to learn that stuff. But yeah, it's intense for someone who doesn't know anything.
So you would say that just having that collaboration or community within those students, that's what kept you going through it?
Yeah, and the teachers, and and I had a few kids in my class who didn't know what they were doing either. And I think I got, like I was saying before, I was always afraid of asking for help most of my life. So like once I started asking for help, that's when like I feel like the universe opened its arms to me, because it was like, Kirstin, you can't do this alone. Mm-hmm. And I was raised to think that I have to do it alone, you know? And that, like I was saying before, if I don't do it alone, then I'm weak, you know? And I used to hear comments like, you know, you're a pussy and you're this, you're that. And it's like, whoa, like, what do you mean? And then now that I'm in the industry, I'm like, especially our industry, music is all about collaboration. Yeah. I don't know anybody who does a thing all by themselves, which it's possible, but you always have someone, hey, can you listen to this reference for me? Right. Or someone else may mix your song, or someone else may master your song, you know, or there's someone else who's helping with promotion. Like, it's really, really hard to do the whole thing by yourself. Yep. And I think that's what I love about this industry. And I try to, I guess that when people ask me for advice, you know, I'm like, just collaborate, because I think what held me back a lot was trying to do everything by myself. And I couldn't do it. And once I started asking for help and collaborating with people, it was like, whoa.
Oh my God. You know, I just kind of had like a aha moment about you. So you just said about, for the majority of your life that you had to do things on your own, and things were very tough. You went through this really rough time, and then music was kind of like hey, it's okay to ask for help. And in a way, you found the beauty in that. And I think that, like, that allowed you to fall in love with music all over again, in a way. Mm-hmm. That's really fucking cool. That's really fucking cool.
It's fine. See, even talking to people, like, you realize that everyone's perspectives are so different. And I think that's the beauty. And especially in our world, like, a lot of just jobs are meant to make you feel like, again, like, I don't know, each position's so different, and you can't be intermingled with other people and stuff. And it's just, I had a lot of jobs like that. They were like, oh, no, this is my space. Like, don't come in here. And it's like, but we're all on this earth together, you know, like, I'm not trying to compete with you. Like, and why can't there be room for everyone? I think people thrive when there are, you know, a group of people working on something.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always down to that balance, right? It's like you have to be self-sustaining and be able to stand on your own, but at the same time, working with other people, there's so much joy and fulfillment and, like, connection. I mean, that's what we're on this planet for, right?
Exactly. You know? That word right there, connection. That's literally what it's all about. And it took me 28 years to even get to this point where I finally understand that concept. And I think it's definitely a generational thing, in my opinion, based on, like, how my parents were raised and how they raised me and stuff. So I'm hoping I see a more positive path for us and our potential children, you know, that we can be more open to connection, and that not be afraid of it. Yeah. And I feel like, you know, people almost make you afraid of it in a way, and and that's why I felt empty. I felt empty a lot of my life, and then like you were saying, like, music made me feel like whole again. And even now, I mean, I'm not making millions of dollars, but I feel content and I feel good, and it's like, this is what it's all about, you know?
That's
like,
more important than the millions of dollars.
Yeah, like, in my head growing up, it was like, oh, I'm never going to be happy if I don't have this big house and make all this money and all this stuff. And then when I don't know, I was kind of exposed to that world a little bit in the fashion industry, I was like, people are miserable. They hate their lives, and everyone's so mean. And oh my God. She's so funny.
Adorable.
Oh, she is. You know, and
woman, where my water at?
Oh, she's got all her, I tried to hide the toys out of the view, so.
That's okay.
She's
so, SAE, you go through, so you start learning about audio, about Pro Tools, right? You start enjoying it. When did you start actually recording yourself and getting into recording your own music?
I want to say, like, Mod 2. Once I really got through, like, Mod 1, it was like, okay, Mod 1 was kind of a good precursor to even find out if I enjoyed it at all. You know, it was, and I feel like a lot of, you know, when a lot of people drop out in that first mod and stuff, because it's like, it is very overwhelming. And if you don't want to be an engineer, and I think that's what a lot of people get confused about our industry, and maybe sometimes they present the audio school as like, if you're a singer, you know, this is going to be all of your, here's all your answers. And it's like, no, because you can be a singer and amazing if you have support behind you, or, you know, you have a label or something like that, or you have producers or someone who's kind of helping you down that path. And all you really have to do is kind of show up and collaborate and sing. But for me, I was like, how do I make this a career? Yeah. What can I do to sustain myself? Because I want to quit my other jobs. I don't want to waitress anymore. I don't want to be an assistant anymore. You know, and I know so many people that are, especially when you're first starting off, everyone has a bartender job on the side, or everyone has a waitressing job, especially in New York City. Our rent is ridiculously high. So it's really, really hard. You see her in the corner?
Oh, no, you just said rent is really high. So, like, I think... It's just funny, and it's so true.
It's crazy. So it's like ridiculous. A lot of us just have to do that to live, which to me is really upsetting, because I was working 4 jobs at one point, a few years ago, and it was like, and it's even when you're a freelancer, you know, even a lot of my friends, like Vinny and everyone, like, you're just involved in so many different things that it's really, really hard, because you have multiple bosses. Especially when you're a freelancer, you have to take care of your own taxes, and no one taught me about that, you know, like, ever. So it was just like, there's just so much that goes on, especially being a freelancer. Like, if you're not out there trying to get work, no one's gonna call you and be like, hey, Kirstin, you want this?
Yeah, you're not gonna eat. Basically.
Like, there's a different mentality you have to enter when you're a freelancer, and I think, I learned a lot about myself when I had to. I was like, whoa, like, I don't have a corporate job, you know, like I do now, where I'm getting a steady paycheck and I have a salary. Like, I have to go out there and get my stuff. So I guess regressing back to your point about when I started recording myself, definitely probably, I mean, in the second and third mod. And then once I started learning the boards, people would use my voice for, like, projects, you know, and it was fun for me to sing and, like, kind of try out different microphones and all that stuff. So, and even starting to sing again, I was smoking cigarettes for a long, long time, and I quit during SAE, cold turkey. So it's been over 4 years now. Haven't had one cigarette. I know, I'm very proud of myself, because I couldn't hold notes anymore. Like, I could not hold my, like, it was so bad.
It was holding you back. Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, like, I can't sing the same way I used to sing, because I gave up, you know, after like fashion school. I was like, I don't care about my life. I'm going to party my life away and, like, don't care, you know? So, like, actually going back into something where I was like, I'm passionate about this and I want to take this serious. I mean, you can still sing and smoke, but for me, I can't. Like, my lungs do not. Nope, it was not happening. So that helped me, you know, health-wise. I was like, if I want to hold notes like I did back in the day, then I need to do this for myself. So that was a step in the right direction. And just kind of singing on people's projects. And that also helped me get back out of my comfort zone, you know, because I get really bad stage fright. So, like, just being in the middle of the room, you know, while all the other students are recording you, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm on the spotlight right now. That really helped me, you know, kind of just get out of my, you know, like, get comfortable with myself again. I feel like I lost myself for so many years before that, like you were saying, it was almost like a rebirth for me. And it really was.
I'm really seeing it now. I mean, this is why I love doing the show, right? Because I barely know anything. I didn't know anything. Dude, the first time I even sat down with Vinny, because I always used to sit down with Vinny and Rohan, so they would always have their thing, and I would just be able to, like, feed off of that. But, like, I learned so much by just sitting one-on-one with people, and, like, I really relate to your story about, like, going through this period of, like, nothingness, like, nothing really matters. I was so lost.
For anyone out there, I can't even tell. Like, I mean, I was having the time of my life, but was I helping anybody in the world? You know, like, I wasn't giving back to the universe in any way.
Like, you weren't fulfilled.
At all. Yeah. Exactly. I was in this fog of just work, play, party, you know, and, like, this, and we had the time of our lives, me and my friends, but in a way, you get to that point, I think, you know, where it's like, something needs to change. At least that's where I got. I was like, I'm not happy.
Right.
And I wasn't able to be the best me in my relationships, whether it was friends or romantically, like, because if you're not happy with, like, what's going on in your life, like, I feel like I couldn't give anything to anyone. And I was just I don't want to say, like, a horrible person, but, like, I didn't feel good about myself. I think
you could say that. I was pretty horrible too, especially when
I was shitty for a while.
Yeah, I totally relate to that.
I think it's something we all struggle with.
It's like what is that? Like, you can't give love if you don't have love. Like, that kind of thing. Like, if you can't, have your own shit together, you can't help other people with their shit. It's like,
exactly. And there's
totally get that.
We're also growing and stuff, but I think when you really don't give a shit about like your health or anything, how can you be the best version of yourself?
Exactly.
Like, that's no way to live, and there's got to be something else. That's what I kept telling myself. I was like, there has to be something else. Because I almost left New York. I think right before I ended up getting accepted into SAE, and just financially everything ended up working out. Thank gosh, with the support of my sister.
Support. There's that word again.
Exactly. And I started asking for help, and it was like, because I couldn't go to SAE by myself. I was getting rejected, and just financially, it's a whole thing.
Yep.
And so asked for help, and it was just one of those blessings, and then here I am, and it's slowly things started to get better, because every day, even if I was just doing a little like word homework assignment, about what frequencies are, it was still like, okay, I'm entering the music industry, I'm around industry professionals, even the teachers,
right.
They're in the industry, and I think that's what I liked a lot about SAE as well. Because when I was at FIT, I had a totally different experience, because they pride themselves at FIT for having teachers that have been in the industry, and I worked with people who managed Procter & Gamble and like all these major companies, which was like, whoa, this is cool. But they were all like, I think I only had maybe maybe two total that were like willing to share their knowledge and not be super judgmental about everything, and almost like they didn't want the rest of us in the industry. It was kind of like, I'll give you just enough, but, I'm going to keep you 10 steps back. And to me, I was like, what do you mean? I'm a young 18-year-old, like all I want to do is learn and like, and help and work in this industry. But no one, it just felt like everyone was very, I don't know what the correct word is, because I don't want to group all fashion into it, because there are great companies.
I
but
get what you're saying.
It was a very, very judgmental industry. And for me, I could not handle that. I was like, I have enough stress in my life. I don't need someone like making fun of me because I'm poor and can't afford a nice designer bag. Like, I was like, okay, let me just... That
sounds horrible, by the way.
It was horrible. It was really, really horrible. So when I went to SAE, I was a little hesitant, because I was like, oh, these are teachers that have worked in the industry, and most of them are still working in the industry. And wait, are you still teaching? Did you start? You are teaching at SA, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's right. I forgot.
That's one of the coolest things about, like, you just said it, like, people who teach at SAE are either heavily in the industry or, actually, no, they're all in the industry. And that's what I love about it. That's the best thing.
Or they're teaching and they're musicians, working on their own music or something. It was like, so for me, I was hesitant at first, because I was like, oh God, I went through this again. And like, I don't need people, I'm paying this too much money now, to be having someone purposely holding with information from me, because their ego, I don't know what it is. But so when I went there, I think that's what really helped me, because all the teachers were so like open, and like, and just it made me see it brought them down to a level of like, okay, we're all on the same like playing field here. I don't know if Ryan is still there. Ryan Pearson.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, he was my Mod 1 teacher.
Hey,
tell him I say hi. But
I will.
he plays in a band, and I think him and his wife play and stuff like that. And I remember he used to show us their music like in class, and to me, I thought that was so cool, because I was like, oh shit, like when you like see teachers, you think they're like, very proper, and like all they do is teach. And then you're like, they're normal people, Kirstin. They go home and have relationships and have fun and go out.
Oh my God. Dude, but like whenever I start a mod, like everybody looks around like, who's the teacher in here? Because like I'm like this, literally. And like, that's me, I'm the teacher.
I know, which is really cool, because it was like, it makes you feel like, oh my, like we're the same, Yeah. And I think that was really important for me, because I was like, oh, I could even have a teaching job and still work on my music. Like, it was like, boom, because I think, again, a question I get all the time is like, how did you navigate through SIE? How did you navigate the field? And I think for me, going back to school at the age that I was, and just having so much life and work and experience, that it was like, I was asking the right questions that I think a lot of the young kids, that's why I was so willing, at Engineer, we can talk about it later, to help the interns who were young, like 17, 18-year-olds, because like I mentioned before, even with the taxes.
Yeah.
I've taught so many young kids that are 18 that had no idea what even a 1099 form was. They didn't even know they had to pay their own taxes. Like, no one taught them that. And like, and I don't blame them, but I was like, okay, well, I'm going to help you then, because no one helped me. So like, even with school, I was like, you have to ask the right questions. It goes deeper than just, I mean, maybe if all you want to do is just learn how to record yourself and you have those thousands to spend and it's no big deal for you.
Right.
But for someone like me, where I had everything to lose, you know, I had family who invested some money for me, like, not saying like they were like, Kirstin, you have to be an audio engineer or that's it. But it was like, I had people that were, you know, financially, I was indebted to, and like, also for myself, like,
that's what I think
it was like I have everything to lose, you know. It wasn't just like something I could be like, oh, I don't feel like going to class today. Like, no, I made sure I showed up every single day, and like it's not even like the program is that long, you know, to really make excuses for it. But my biggest questions throughout it was like, well, how can I turn this into a career?
Right.
Like, I'm really happy for all this knowledge and I learned so much, but like, I want to go out of here. Like I was saying before, my goal was to quit my other jobs, like, you know, or at least start a journey where I could eventually quit
the other jobs,
my other jobs, you know,
Right.
where I didn't have to be a waitress, which it's a great gig. And, you know, like I said, I've learned a lot and I've learned a lot of people's skills, but it's just, you know, it's not what I wanted to do for the rest of my life personally.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I think that's what really helped me, because a lot of the teachers saw that in me and were like, okay, she's serious.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, I mean, I taught for a little bit, you know, at Engine Room for a few times. And I think when you see your student super engaged, like, I don't know, maybe you feel, I mean, you know, it feels, it's fun to teach them when you feel that feedback back and you're like, okay, they're actually listening to me. And I don't mind sharing my knowledge with people that are actually going to take it serious.
Yeah.
And I think we dealt with a lot of that with interns and you know, at the studio at Engine Room and stuff. And I think, I mean, and I think the beauty of, especially Engine Room interning, is like, and even in school, like, you have the option to decide if you like it or not, you know. And I think a lot of people would force themselves to stay when they were like, you know what, engineering is not really for me. I just want to be a rap artist, or I just want to be a singer. I don't want to learn how to use a board or any of this stuff. And I think there's a beauty to that we have. We're very fortunate to have a choice, you know.
I think so too. And I think what you said about like how sharing the knowledge is like a huge part of it, especially with students who are very serious about these things. It's like, it's a hint of like what you said before about you're kind of giving back to the world in a way. Like, you know, you're like, oh, well, I went through this and this is what happened when I did it. I mean, you could try that, but maybe try something else. It's up to you. But there's nothing more fulfilling. It feels like you're actually doing something with your life, you know?
And that's like, it's so amazing, and I got so much joy out of that. And even now, I get a lot of, especially being a female in the industry. I don't want to like harp on that too much, but like,
but I am curious. No, go ahead. Like, what is it like? Because it's very much a guy industry, heavily a guy industry. I
think that was also something that turned me off a little bit in the beginning as well, because I'm a girly girl, and I mean, as I said before, I went to fashion school, so I'm never gonna stop wearing my jewelry and wearing, you know, the clothes that I want to wear. And I think my perception of an engineer was, you know, dark jeans, black t-shirt, you know, or like even a live sound guy, because I'll talk about my live sound in a little bit, but like every live sound tech I've ever seen, you know, has the hoodie on, even the females, not to let, you know, the hoodie on, the skinny jeans, and, you know, the head down, and it's like, you know, you don't even notice them, you know, it's like, and that's kind of the point, you know, but in a way, like, I never really paid attention to that. So I think for me, I mean, you can't always wear earrings, especially with these giant headphones, but it helped me, like Sylvia Massey. You like Tool. She used to record Tool, and she's just like Kylie Minogue and stuff, but she's been a big, I guess, influence of mine, because I watch a lot of interviews from her, and she's like, yeah, I like to be girly, and like, I'm still not, you know, but she still can hang and still can do all that stuff. And it for me, I remember even at Engine Room when this guy hired me, guys, as an intern at Engine Room.
Oh, me, yeah, I remember the interview. You know why I remember it? Because you said you were from Massachusetts. And the girl I was dating at the time was from Massachusetts. I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Thank you, girl. I don't know if you guys are still together, but thank you.
No, but it's still a good little memory.
Yeah, right? It's so funny when you're hiring people. It's like, you don't want to be biased, but, you know, some people you just remember certain things.
I totally saw that you had this tenacious kind of, like, attitude. And, you know, you said something about how your teachers saw that you were very serious about making a career. I don't know exactly what you said in the interview or how you phrased it, but there was definitely, like, an energy about you about, like I'm going to do this, and, like, I'm willing to work and do what it... I can't even remember what we even talked about, but there was something about it that made me go...
Either I was so nervous, I was, like, blacked out. You know, when you're, like, so nervous or something, I was like... And then when I went in and you were, like, the chillest guy ever, it was, like, the chillest situation. I'm over here, like, oh, my God, my whole life was... Like, you know, depends on this. Oh, my God. I was so nervous. And then afterwards, I was like, holy shit.
That's amazing.
I know, I was so nervous, but... Yeah, no, and I think... And that... That's how I started doing live sound, was in school, because Rich, Kirstin, I don't know if you had him.
Rich.
He left he left when I left. So
yeah, then I probably don't know.
A few years ago, but he shout out to Rich if you ever listen. We're still friends. Actually, we just talked not too long ago.
That's awesome.
But yeah, he got me my first gig. His friends started a bar called Our Wicked Lady. Shout out to Our Wicked Lady. A really awesome, has a rooftop bar in Bushwick. And they had it was kind of, the whole building was like half bar with the rooftop situation, and then rehearsal spaces.
Nice.
So, and they were all musicians, you know, so it was like a collaborative friend effort where it was like, hey, we're going to open this rehearsal space, and then next door is going to be a bar and a rooftop where people can go after they record or, you know, jam and practice and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's a really cool concept. They are still open, but with COVID, you know, as we can only hope that everyone, stays open still. So I hope the best for them. But they just opened it up, and they had like a little nook in the kind of bar area where they wanted to set up the drums and everything. And so Rich was like, I set up the whole sound system for them, and I could use like an assistant for like the first gig.
Nice.
And yeah, he asked me and another girl, so two of us, and I was the only one who showed up. She didn't show up. So he was like, you know, so I remember being so shit scared. I've never touched like a lot, like outside of school. Right. You know, where like I could actually damage people's instruments and actually damage things in the real world. I was like, holy shit. It was terrifying, like running the snake all the way around the room and like carrying like 50-pound amps. I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing with my life? And in the middle of Bushwick too, like so far away from where I was living. And yeah, that first night I was like, this is cool. Like, and nice. I think I like loved the live sound side of it so much because I came from doing like theater and like, that was it, you know, like on performance night, like we could have 1,000 rehearsals, but when it came to the night, the 4 shows on that weekend, like that was all you had.
Yeah.
If you screwed up like that, you know, that was it. And for me, there was like that sort of adrenaline with it, you know, that I was I'm on the spot right now. Right. And it was thrilling for me. And I think that's why sometimes recording gets a little like, so I don't really enjoy recording people, I will say, you know, and I feel like I forced myself to like enjoy being a recording engineer for a long time or like mixing. And I was like, this isn't fun, you know, like some people love it, you know, and God bless all of you that do.
Shout out Michael Bader. He loves recording. Yes,
exactly. Like, yeah, some people just love it. And I think, for me, I just love maybe it's that performer in me, but I love that live, those good butterflies, you know?
Spontaneity of it. Yes. Like anything could happen.
I love it. And that's why, like, being on the other end of it, I was like, okay, well, now I'm in control of your sound, you know? So, like, obviously, I want to make you sound the best if you're nice to me. No shit. And, you know, so it was like, it just felt good. I was like, this is the show right now for the audience. We don't get another take of this. You know, once they start, that's it. And I think that's like that first exposure to a live show and just the energy in there and that like, we were pretty much responsible for it, you know, because whenever I went to a concert, like I could appreciate good sound, but I don't really know like what really went into it. Like, oh my gosh, especially at like venues and you have all the speakers and the snakes that people have to run and how many cables, like those people are there for hours before and hours after you leave that show. And like doing that myself, I've like gained such a different, you know, respect for it because
Absolutely.
it's so much work. And then especially like where we were shows, there's people drinking beers and throwing shit all over the speakers. And it's like, you know, after a while it gets a little annoying, you know, because you're just like, okay, I'm sick of cleaning beer up this, you know, really expensive speaker that no one cares about, but it's totally fine.
Yeah.
But, you know, at the same point, like, that's the beauty of a live show, you know? Right. And that's why we use 58s, like my beautiful 58 Ws, right? You know? So we can destroy it. And it's like, that's the whole point. And, like, it just, even though sometimes it makes a sound person's job hell, but I think if there's, like, that respect, you know, where it was like, okay, that's this type of show. You know, like, people are going to go crazy, you know? So just be prepared. So I think, like, mentally, I had to prepare myself a lot of the times for shows like that, especially when you're tired. You're like, really?
Yeah.
You know, there's just like drinks on everything next to the mics, and you're like, oh, please stop doing that. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, that anxiety, like, okay.
Right.
But yeah, so I got my first gig in school, which I think was so helpful because when you're like, you graduate school, because it's like there's a lot going on when you're in school. You have friends, you see the same people every day. There's like, you have a set schedule, you know, and for someone, me, I love schedules. So I'm like, okay, cool. I have a purpose every day for the next however long, you know? And then when it's over, it's like, oh shit, like, what do I do? You know, like, I don't have anyone to report to. Like, I'm not making money off of it. You know, I that's why I feel like when I was in school, I was like, I have to take as much knowledge as I can because I'm not really going to get that back. And I'm not going to get that opportunity. At least I thought, you know, luckily I got to have a lot of hands-on experience being an intern at Engine Room, which was really, really, really helpful.
And that happened after school?
Yeah, I started doing live sound, like my third mod. So I had one more mod left, and I already was doing shows like every 2 weeks. And then it turned into every Thursday night. We used to do shows Thursday night for the cause. So every Thursday we'd donate to a charity, and they would host like usually 3 or 4 bands. So that was like... I didn't, you know, it was kind of like intern work until I graduated school, and then eventually I was getting paid for that.
Nice.
But yeah, that was kind of like my gig, my night, you know, Thursday nights. So that was my new exposure into the industry, I guess.
Yeah.
I know, and I thank Rich all the time for that because I'm just like, that was a huge, you know, it propelled me to want to continue to stay in the industry, you know, because it was like, okay, I actually enjoy doing this.
Yeah, and you see progress. You're seeing progress.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like, when I came home at night, even though I was super tired, I was like, well, no matter what, like, I still really enjoyed that. Yeah. You know, and I think that was like what I was looking for so many years, you know?
Yeah.
And so doing that in school was huge. So I think if anyone, if you can ever try to do anything, you know, just get your foot in somewhere while you're in school, even though I know it's so overwhelming, especially when I had to work a full-time job and go to school. It was like, I remember after I graduated, I got so sick because I was just so drained because I put everything, you know. I went balls out essay. Like, I studied, like, I mean, I've always been really hard on myself to get good grades, but like, I made sure that it wasn't just like, oh, to get the A. It was like, I am actually retaining this information. Like, I want it all. And I think my body at the end of it was like, girl, you need to sleep for like a whole week. Like, just take a week off. So, after graduating, I think I took 3 months off before I contacted
Engine Room.
You know, and it's funny because my friend who I met waitressing, funny enough, her dad was the one who got me in touch with someone who knew you.
Huh.
So his name was Nathaniel Reichman or something. Oh
yeah, he's isn't he the Dubway guy?
No. Okay, I'm thinking of that. Yeah, that is Nathaniel. Who am I thinking of? I swear his name is Nate. I'll have to ask my friend, but he knew you.
Nate.
I don't honestly. That doesn't sound familiar now that I'm thinking of it.
I know a couple of Nates. I don't know. So
wait,
So say that again. Who you're?
So my friends, her like I waitressed with her. Whatever. We became friends. No connection to audio at all. Right. Her dad knows Benny Boff, who used to be the CEO of Sony, who then was like, well, I don't know any studios, so here's a guy that I know. I thought his name was Nate or whatever. I'll have to find out. And then that guy was like, well, I don't know anyone, but I know this guy G, you know, that works at a studio. And I was like, sure, I don't give a shit. You know, just put me in connection with someone.
Wow.
And
I'm
then
gonna go find out who that was.
I'll have to text my friend because she'll know instantly. But Yes, which is so crazy to me. So it's like someone who had nothing to do with any, you know, basically anything. But her dad was the first one to really like kind of hook me up with a career in a way, or like the start to one.
Yeah.
Which was so cool. And then that's how I emailed you, because I remember I told myself I would take like a month or two off school just to like relax, you know, because I really stressed myself out with school a lot. Yeah. I needed it a lot. And then I think it was around like 2.5, 3 months, because I was like, I don't want to take too much time off, because then I feel like I'm going to lose my steam. You know, like I had my live sound, but I was like, what is one day a week? You know, like we need to get going with this. Yep. And then, I think I honestly didn't even know what to expect. I didn't even know what the hell I was getting myself into. I was just like, let me just get my foot in somewhere. And recording studios sounded like the best place, because I had the experience for live sound where I was like, okay, I really like live sound, you know? And I knew I really like, that's the path I kind of wanted to go down. But I also wanted to learn how to like record myself, you know, as an artist. I was like, well, I think I need the knowledge of what a recording studio is like, you know? Totally different than the live sound world. Definitely. So I'm really blessed to have been exposed to both things early on, because it allowed me to kind of see, like I was saying before, like just being an intern at Engine Room and then working my way up to engineering and then being a manager at some point. It was like I realized that I didn't like recording other people, you know, and I didn't like mixing things. And I think that's one thing that I always made sure other interns knew, is like, you have a choice. Right. And that you're not just, you don't have to go down this one path. And I think that's the beauty of engineering and even any career. I think a lot of, like I was saying before, like when you first go to SAE, like they don't really tell you that. Like you end up in the fourth mod, you do more post-production work, which is what I'm doing now. So it's like, but no one told me that I could be a Foley artist. You know, no one told me I could be a live sound engineer. No one, you know, told me I could be a media engineer like I'm doing now. Like no one, to me, I was just like, there's just one job. It's, you know, it's recording, it's mixing, or it's mastering, or you're nothing. You know? And I, you know, in a way, and I think I had that perspective. So then when I was going into it and recording other people, I was like, I don't really like this. Like, it's fun. I love working with people, but I just wanted to sing myself, you know? I wanted to get up there and like say stuff. And as a recording engineer, that's like the biggest no-no is like, you don't add your production input. Like, you're not the producer here, so keep your mouth shut. So I'm over there like, you know, I don't. Yeah. And I feel like I forced myself to like it for a long time. I was like,
did you force yourself to like it because you, like you said, you were worried there was nothing, like this was the only path?
Yeah, and I think everyone else, I noticed so many other people like loving it that I was like, what's wrong with me? You know? I'm like,
and you had to make this work. Like you had to make it.
Exactly. And I felt like there was such like that monetary side to it too, where I was like, well, I want to make money and I want to establish a name for myself, but how the hell do I do that? You know, if I'm not a recording engineer. And then I think like even back to being like the woman thing is, when I am in late night sessions, you know, and there were multiple times, I mean, Engine Room specifically just because it's that culture and kind of the more hip hop vibe and stuff, the sessions are later. Yep. You know, the sessions are later. They are, you know, like till all the hours in the morning. And for me, I think I just was kind of over that lifestyle. Yeah. I'm all down to go out to the club, you know, till 4 a.m. and do that stuff still. But it's like, you know, we got to plan for that now, day before and day after for what I'm doing with my life. But
not like on a whim where it's like, oh, by the way, tonight we're staying till.
You know, I mean, I will do it, but am I the best version of me the next day? No, probably not for the next 5 days. I just regressed back to being a piece of shit. So it's like everything's fine. Everything's fine. It's never been better. That's been his saying.
That's hilarious.
So I think a lot of that was like, I don't want to be here while everyone's wasted and like super fucking stoned, and I'm the only female right now at 3 a.m. Yeah. I don't want to go out and eat a bunch of fast food, you know? Like, I don't want to go out and do all that. And I think,
my God,
just like the culture of it was not something that I wanted to do.
Right.
And I think, and then I was maybe we had a handful, maybe 3 female interns at Engine Room. Like,
barely.
I remember when I was managing, I think there was like 22 of you guys or something like that, or something, and then just me. And I was just like, which is fine. I mean, and everyone, you guys have always been respectful. Like, I've never had an issue ever at Engine Room. It's only ever been like clients, going too far. Sure. Yeah, but with like my coworkers, like everyone has always had my back, and you guys always made me feel safe. So like, I think that's why it was, I didn't notice it as like a problem for me, because I know there are issues with some other females where they're uncomfortable. And it's really easy to take advantage, I think, of us, and especially when someone's not used to seeing an engineer. Like, I got a lot of comments where people are just like, oh, you're the engineer? Like, I'm in the seat, and they're kind of just like, get out of there. What are you doing? And it's just kind of, I always felt like, even in school, like I had to work that much harder to prove myself. And I think that's why maybe you felt that tenacious energy for me, and other people felt that, because I was like, I want to be taken serious. And like, I don't want to get ahead just because of my looks or because I'm a female, and I think there's a beautiful thing to have female and male energy in a room, and so I think if you don't let it bother you, obviously it's not an issue, but it's easier said than done. Because I had a few, not too much at the studio, but live sound when I first started. Those young Bushwick kids kind of coming in, and I remember like coming home and crying a few times after shows, because I just was so defeated, and it was so, I know I was just tired at the end of the night, but like I had people who would like come over the board and like literally tried to like turn knobs, or come over to me and be like, oh, like if you lower this and boost this, this will sound better. And I'm just like, but then when my male coworkers would work, no one ever said anything, It was
That's interesting.
So it was like, and then
it's demoralizing. That's pretty shitty.
It really is, and it made me feel like shit. And I was just like, okay, well, now I have to prove myself because what? Because of my gender? Like, when I know just as much as the guy next to me, but like, why would I? Why would I have to try harder? Shame. But it was, and it is, and I think, but there is a lot of great guys like you, and like even with Rich, like he would speak up, and he'd be like, don't come near this board ever again. Like, she's the engineer here, and I think we need more people to be like vocal about that, and just kind of, setting. That standard that like that's not okay to do. And
it is a fine line, right? Because it also occurs to me that like you were doing live sound in a bar where people go to party. You know what I mean? And the studio environment, there is a very kind of party-esque vibe. Yep. So it's such a fine line that people just kind of take advantage of sometimes.
Yeah, and I think it's so normal. It's so normalized in our culture that like that's just, like for me, I would just, people like make sexual comments to me, and I'm just like, and it's like, and then when I go back home, I'm like, wait, should I have said something? Should I have like stuck up for myself? Should someone else have said something? Like, it's a very confusing thing to navigate, because
you're not
just
sure,
like,
because you don't want to. I mean, you're scared that you won't be taken to that next level. Yeah, I get it.
You don't want to stir the pot, because anyone who opens their mouth, so like I said, I mean, I see positive things happening in our future, so we can like get out of that mentality where like it's okay to throw around shitty, misogynistic comments like that. Like, and I think, and that's one thing that I did love about Engine Room and working with all of you guys, and like the wonderful males that I have in my life and females that I got from Engine Room. But just like I never had an issue with anybody work-wise. And I just like adored that about you all, that like I felt so safe there. And I think that's the biggest thing that people, it's like you were saying with a bar, when you're out, like you don't feel as safe, because you know how people get when they drink too much and they're smoking, and that, we've all been there. And it's like, I know a lot of times people don't mean it, but there's a difference between like, I don't know, especially at a bar where like everyone's so close to me. Like I don't have like a set booth where I'm separate. Like when you go to a big venue, the sound people are like kind of in their own area, and it's like like they're working. So I feel like people approach you differently. And then kind of with the bar having everyone around me, it was like, oh, we're all friends. Right. I'm like, we are, and we can be, but I'm still here for a job. Like I'm still doing a job, and I need you to respect me, and please don't touch my board ever again.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, and I feel like, and I also got a few times where the people, like I'd have a male assistant, I was the one in charge, and I'd have like a male guy who would just do like, like set up the mics and stuff, but I was the one like running the sound for the show. And I had a lot of times where they wouldn't even talk to me. They would just, talk to the other guy like, hey, I need this in my monitor, and blah, 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 blah. And then like the other guy's like, you got to talk to her for that, you know? Like, I'm not doing that. And they would kind of just like, you know, they kind of like get weary at first. And then once they talk to me, I'm like, hey, like, that's why I made that joke before. As long as you're nice to me, like, I'll make sure you don't hear, I'll make sure you don't hear anything in your monitor.
Right,
How about that? Not to be like rude, but it's like, if you're going to treat me like shit and not take me seriously, like, I'm the one helping you, you know? Like, as a performer, like, I want to give you the best monitor mix you can have, because as a performer, I'm like, it's amazing when you can hear everything that you actually want to hear without bleed and without feedback, you know? Like, I love doing that for people, and I love that about live sound.
That's like one of the first things that you learn, at least as an artist, is that, like, just treat your team with respect, like engineer.
That's all I'm asking for. That's it.
It's not that much, is it? It's a little just a little bit of respect.
Right? It's like, you know, exactly. Just a little. I just need like this much, you know? And like usually they got over it. I'm not asking for much. I never thought I was, but no, just kidding. You know, usually they got over, you know, it wasn't like they were like making my life miserable, but there were a few shows where I was like testy, you know? I was like, I was so close to just turning, you know, let me just turn your mic down.
So engine room, like you start to understand that you don't want to do the recording thing, right? Is this like around the time when you were manager or before you were manager?
That was kind of before manager. And I think like when I transitioned into GA, I liked that responsibility, you know, kind of managerial, more responsibility as a GA.
Right.
And that's when I think I was like, oh, you know, I like this. And I was like, there's some things that I wish I could change, or like I think could be done better. Like little things like that where I was like, maybe, you know, I see myself in a manager position, not just like an engine, but in anywhere, you know? I was like, I like this. And I'm still doing live sound on the side,
nice.
Continuing. And then I worked at Shapeshifter Lab at a jazz venue. Matt Garrison owns that. So shout out to Matt and Fortuna. They are sweethearts. And again, I hope they stay open, because Shapeshifter, again, has just been such a blessing in my life. And the freedom we got as front of house engineers there, and just to be creative, and that whole environment was just so positive and great. So awesome. I don't work there anymore, which is crazy for me to not do any live sound anymore, because it was my life for years. But yeah, I think the manager, I mean, we've talked about this, taking a position that wasn't always maybe monetarily didn't make the most sense, but it's what got me my job now. And I feel like in even going and back to school, I was always thinking like 10 steps ahead. I'm like, so if I do this job, how long do I want to be here with no pay? How long do I want to be here at this pay? You know, like what is this going to do for me? And someone, I forgot, and getting a mentor really, really helped, because they were like, just start reaching out to people, you know? And I was like, well, how do I do that? You know, like just get someone's email and just send them an email. And I'm like, what? You can do that? Like,
no, yeah.
You know? And it's like, and I ended up getting exposed to the Broadway world before I got this job for a little bit by just sending an email, just because I was like, maybe I want to do sound design. You know? I was like, maybe I can do sound in a theater. So I was like, oh, my theater background, and I love live sound, so why can't we just try to merge both?
Yeah, I remember that. You had mentioned this years ago. Oh, yeah.
And so I probably would have been going down that path if I didn't take the job that I have now.
Wow.
I started that where I was like shadowing with some sound designers. I met a few Broadway, you know, front of house engineers, and all by just, you know, reaching out to people, and was like, I just would like to learn anything and anything. If I could just be a fly on the wall for just one moment and just one connection, you know, put me in touch with so many different people. And it was like, once I just got rid of that anxiety and like, there's like the inner confidence they think you need to have to be able to like just blindly reach out to someone who's like a major industry professional. But like, what do you really have to lose? You know? And that's what I always tell people. I'm like, what is the worst they're going to say? No. Like, you move on, you know? And it's like, at least your name got out there, you know? Like, I think that's really big too, because people will be like, oh, I think I've seen your name somewhere, you know? And it's just like little stuff like that people remember, and that's a huge part of our industry is collaboration and everyone you know. So it's like,
I think people are always scared of like the rejection side of it, but I think that's something that as you do more and more, you start to get over. You know? Yeah,
and I think, and it comes with like maturity too. I think even for me, like I was always so insecure, and that's what held me back. And then when I finally was just like, you know what, screw it. Like I'm gonna just be. I mean, there's a vulnerability factor there, and I think it takes courage, you know, and there is no courage if you don't go out into the ring, you know, willing
Right.
to get beat up, you know. It's like that's courageous and that's vulnerability. But like I feel like even just defining those terms, you know, later in my life, it's like it gets easier because I didn't really even know what vulnerability was, you know. And I think there's a big part of that. And I think, like you were saying, it's the insecurity, you know, of failing. And I think that's something, again, culturally that has like been ingrained in a lot of our heads, that like failure. And it's like, to me now I look at it like, well, what is failure? Like who gets to define that I'm a failure?
Exactly.
Like you don't know what makes me feel whole as a human, you know, and it's different for everybody. So it's like
Totally true. And also, like, you know, the old saying is failure is the stepping stone to success, right? Somebody said it really well the other day, and I watch all these YouTube videos, but somebody said, like, you know, when things are going right, like, you don't learn anything. It's when things go horribly wrong, you learn the lessons in life to move forward. I wish I had memorized the quote, but it was just a beautiful way of, like, saying that you don't learn lessons when things go well. You learn it when things fall to shit, and you're like, fuck, I shouldn't have done that. I won't do it next time.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing, too, like you were saying. It's being able to, like, own it and then move on, and that's something I struggle with now, too. Like, I'll harp on things for so long, you know, and I'm like, oh, 2 months later, you know, I'm like, I still can't believe I did that. And I'm like, Kirstin, like, you know, like, you have to move on at some point. And I think, yeah, like, there's a big, it's a big maturity and stepping stone when you can get to that point where you're just like, I'm not going to let this shit bother me anymore.
It's
like,
at odds with your own tenacity, because, like, I kind of relate to it in the sense that I'm very, very, very stubborn. Like, it takes, like, the world and a half.
I don't see that from you.
Oh, well, you don't know me that well. I am, like...
See, right? We don't really know.
So, okay, like, I talk to Rohan when you get a chance, and he'll... like, because we lived together for, like, a year, and
That's
and he
true.
knows.
You do learn a lot about someone when you live with somebody. Oh, my God.
It's like, I need the world and a half to actually change my mind. Like, it's ridiculous. I'll tell you this is a ridiculous example, but this will show you how it's silly. So, you've been to the World Trade Path by any chance? The one with the Oculus, right? So, I remember Rohan and I were coming out of the path station and about to walk towards engine room. And, you know, you walk up and then you turn right in order to go to the surface level. Right? And there's two ways. You can either go to the bottom level and then take the stairs up, or you can go up a level and then walk to the surface. Right? There's two,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
So I'm like, dude, I'm going on the ground level. And he's like, no, why? It's easier up here. I'm like, no, I'm going on. Like, why? And then we both, literally, we came here together. We both go separate ways. And then we meet up on the other side. It's like, why didn't you just come with me? Why didn't you come with me? Like, we are both, like, he knows I'm unbelievably stubborn. And for no reason sometimes.
That's amazing.
Just stupid reasons. But to go back to, like, stubbornness, tenacity, and all this stuff, it's like, when you're that stubborn / tenacious, it's like, you don't want to let it go because, like, it's like, no, but I know, like, you know, I get it. It's so hard to, like, stand back and, like, let things go. Whatever it is, whether it's, like, you know, a musical piece or, like, you know, a recording you did or even, like, a person, you know? It's so hard to let go because we have that whatever thing. The same thing that gives us strength is like a weakness as well.
I don't know exactly. I don't know what it is. It's that weird, like, maybe possession, you know, like, don't take it away, you know? And I think even for me, like, growing up, getting everything kind of taken away, you know, like now everything I have, I hold on to it too tight, you know? And I feel like I can relate with that stubbornness with you where it's like, don't come in my space and ruin this because it took so much hard work to get where I am today that, like, I'd be damned if anyone takes it away from me. And then I'm like, okay, Kirstin, like, relax, you know? You sound a little crazy. But it's also...
Hey, I mean, I'm glad you're able to say that because it's hard for
me.
Easier said than done. Yeah, let's say that.
Very easier said than done. That's why I think it's like you have to try to give yourself that grace and forgiveness, you know, that, like, you are going to fuck up and that, like, you know, even in the industry, I don't want to say who, but I was told that I was a bitch twice and that I was too aggressive when I asked for raises. And I remember losing my mind and someone called me aggressive, and I still have the photo on my phone of the definition between aggressive and assertive. Because I was like, I'm going to walk back in there and I'm going to explain to them that I'm not aggressive, I'm assertive, and there's a difference, you know?
We are more alike each other than I realized.
I remember calling all my friends, my mom, and I was like, am I aggressive? Do you think like I'm a bitch? Like, do I come off like that to you? And they're just like, what are you talking about? Like, you're super nice. Like, I don't understand. I was like, I thought so too, but it's that, like, especially I hate that with like, not just in our industry, but just in general. When people like, I get it. Maybe you don't always have the financial backing to like pay people more, and there's all, like there's politics involved in everything. I get that. Right. But there comes a point where it's like, there are ways that you can make people feel rich without money verbally and by expressing things, there's a way to create that work culture. And I think when you don't have that in a job, it's really depressing and it sucks. It's like when you don't feel like you're like, okay, like a lot of my career, like I started out as like my $15 engineer, and then now I'm a $20 engineer. Now I'm a $25, $30 engineer, but if you don't want to pay me that, like that's disrespectful to me. And then, or if you're going to promise me something and then be like, oh, I'm sorry, we couldn't end up paying you that. It's like, no. Like, this is what I'm at, and I worked hard to get here, and it's like, it's not like I'm just trying to take advantage of you and pretend that I'm a $30 engineer when I'm not, it's like, I worked hard to get here, and I think there's always that fear, and especially even being a female, like, oh, there's always someone that's going to take your place. There's always someone that'll take your place. And it's like, so if me and my brother, actually, he was just talking about this, how like when you get overqualified for something and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, we don't want you anymore. Yeah. And it's like, well, what was the point of working so hard to be, to be great at what I'm doing, because it's like, oh, well, we're going to take the other guy, who I can pay less. And I just think that whole thing is always discouraging as well. But I don't know.
I think we've talked about this a lot, like outside of this, and it's frustrating until you realize that, whoever does that, that's the machine, that's the business model. And, me and you being extremely stubborn, like we always think that we can kind of like change that but. Yeah,
I get a little kind of like the rules don't apply to me sometimes. And I have to lose that a lot of my life. I've struggled with that. But for some things, when I really feel like I'm speaking out for the betterment, of a group of people or just for myself, where I'm like, hey, like, I can't, like when I'm working 4 jobs, like I shouldn't have to be doing that, especially if you can't see that I'm putting all of this effort in and I'm clearly underpaid for what I'm doing. Can you make me feel whole in another way? Like, can you give me constructive feedback? Like there, if I don't have any of that, where it's like, Kirstin, you're doing a really awesome job, like keep it up. Like, what can we do to like maybe make your life a little easier today? Like if there's none of that, then like I don't feel like this is a collaborative effort. It just feels like I'm giving all I can to your business and then I'm not getting anything out. And I think just like I was saying before, there's a way to make people feel rich without even like money sometimes. Like, a lot of people will stay in jobs where they don't make as much as they could at a different job, but they're happier and the work culture is better. Yep. And so it's like, that's a huge, huge factor. And I think a lot of business owners think that we all have our money blinders on, which money is great, but majority of the time we just want to feel that connection, which goes back to what we were saying before. And it's like, I'm giving you a service and you're allowing me to be here. So like, why can't we have, that mutual understanding?
Oh yeah, exactly. And look, I think some businesses just set themselves up like that, and I think I think we both realized that we would rather have a place where whether it's more money or less money, it's like just where you're valued, where you can clearly see, even if it's I don't know, I can't think, like, take the rest of the day out. I don't know. I can't think of an example. But
or little stuff. Yeah, no, little stuff goes a long way. Or just like, can I go get you a coffee? Just like little things that just, I don't know. A lot of business owners, I feel bad because, again, it's very stressful in New York City to hold down a business. And I get it, the stress. Like, you just lose, and then you have your family and you have your own personal life and you're wrapped up in all these people. And, like, it's exhausting. Really navigating through life. And I think I understand where people are coming from when they seem like they're just over it and they're like, I really can't give any more of my energy to anyone else. Yeah. But it's like, I I don't know. You're doing your business more damage, I think, in my opinion. And I think there's a point where you need to realize, like, okay, maybe it is time to move on. You know,
Right.
maybe I can't do everything. Maybe I do need more help. And again, you know, that whole asking for help thing. Like, yeah, it's cheaper to do everything yourself, but is it really worth it? You know, if your personal relationships are suffering, you know, if your employees are suffering, it's, you know, we're all just trying to survive here, essentially. So.
But now,
yeah, that's something.
like you have, tell me this new job, this wonderful new job.
Oh, I know. I started at the beginning of this year, so pre-COVID, and then it's just been, I don't even know, this whole year.
Oh,
I mean,
you
it's been
mean
stressful.
last year?
Oh my gosh, you're right.
It's like, what? It's been a fucking year.
I'm still in 2020 right now. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's crazy.
So you started in 2020?
2020, like the first Monday. They called me.
Wow.
Yeah, I ended up leaving the studio in like November that year. Like, and then I've been applying to jobs for just years, just over and over again.
Sure.
Oh, like I ended up getting this job through LinkedIn. So shout out to LinkedIn and the other 8,000 applications I've ever sent in my life. But as I'm sure we're all familiar with, but one bit, you know, and it pays to just be consistent and to never stop.
Right.
And yeah, I remember them calling me and like, it was so out of the blue, and I was like, what? You know, like, I got an interview? Like, you know, because you're just so used to just not hearing anything for so long. I remember thinking it was like a spam call, and I remember answering it so rude, like, what? She's like, I'm sorry, is this Kirstin? I'm like, she's calling me in the middle of my work day, you know, at the studio where I probably just came from one of the locations. I'm obviously stressed, like...
That's
you know,
hilarious.
It was one of those days. And I never pick up calls, like numbers that I don't know. I always just let it go to voicemail. If it's important, they'll leave me a voicemail. But I ended up just picking it up that day. I don't know why. It ended up being like my lovely HR lady, Maureen, who I love now. We're so close. But like, I was so mean in the beginning. And then, so always be careful every time you answer a phone, even if you're upset. Just let it go to voicemail. Don't do what I did. But, I ended up getting the job, and when they hired me, they originally told me it would be like I want to say it's an entry level, but it's a job that I would need training for. Sure. So I'm basically in the post-production world, which, like I was saying before, like when I first, I mean, in SAE they did explain a lot. Post-production, you know, I mean, they did one mod on post-production, and I think we did like a few projects, you know, where you would like sync up sound effects and things like that. But what I'm doing is like totally not really that. We're owned by Comcast. My company is called iNDEMAND, and I'm a junior media engineer. So it's, I guess my title is media engineer because I'm dealing with like video and audio assets. So we're basically the middleman between like Comcast and the end delivery, you know, between like Cox and Spectrum and all that stuff.
I see.
We do like pay-per-view and on-demand movies.
Okay.
So we have like contracts with a bunch of studio houses, you know, like HBO and Alt Channel and like all of the different subdivisions of everything of Warner and Disney and everything. And yeah, when we deliver, you know, assets and final products like for pay-per-view and on-demand stuff. So I'm on the engineering team. Because our system is fully automated, like with pseudo AI stuff, and like my team built all of that. So I help maintain it, and I'm also learning how to build it.
Interesting.
So I'm like kind of in that preliminary, like we do like visual coding is the software that I use. It's called Vantage, if anyone's interested. But it's... The reason my boss hired me, it's funny because he's an audio guy, and all my coworkers on the engineering and like infrastructure team, that's a hard word to say, infrastructure. They're all audio, you know, nerds, or they're film nerds. They come from somewhere in the industry. Like my one boss was a bass major, and my other boss was a theater sound guy for years. Cool. So it's really, I fit into that world with them, which is really cool. But like he told me in the beginning, he's like, the reason like I hired you, I mean, I had a good interview in my resume, but an experience, but a lot of it was because I know signal flow. And he was like, if you can figure out like signal flow in an audio board, he's like, then you're going to be fine learning out like visual coding. Because when you see my workflows, you're like, what the hell is this? You know, there's like little mini boxes and there's different actions that can do different things, but I can connect them, you know, like they can call API calls. They can do, you know, scripts. They can run scripts and do different things. but it's all essentially signal flow. You know, it's like, okay, I have this one thing and I need to get it down here. You know, how do I do that? So it's like fun for me, you know, because it's like I know how audio runs through a board and how to, you know, do all different things in it. So it's been really, really interesting to learn. It's kind of like computer. I mean, they call me a media engineer, you know, because I am like doing media assets. But I mean, it's a little bit of like broadcast engineering and computer engineering because I don't write the actual scripts, but I have to know about that world. Sure. And I still call scripts, you know, and I still do that stuff, but I'm not the one behind like writing an entire Python script for something, you know, like that's another guy. But I'm down that world and it's very, very interesting. And, so basically like our whole system, like a file will come in from a studio and, there's all those 5.1 rules, you know, with HD files now and stereo and, they're called mezzanine files if anyone's interested,
hilarious
but
for
they come
reasons.
in and I know, right? I know. It always makes me laugh, but they come in and they're huge, you know, and your set-top box, I mean, I don't have cable like at my house, but even on Netflix and stuff, all those deliverables as they're called, you know, like the final product, thing, like when you open up Netflix and you see, you know, The Office, which I think they actually just took it off, but that file that you're playing, I know, right? But I think Peacock has it or something, someone told me?
Yeah,
I
it's
forget.
on Peacock now.
But so you pull up The Office and you see like, okay, this has captions, this has, you know, audio subtitles and blah, 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 or it's available in Spanish or whatever. You know, like someone that didn't just obviously appear there, as you know, but most of the end users, they just turn on their TV and it works.
Right.
You know, so when like where we come in is like that file, like originally like season 3, episode 1 of The Office, you know, was a huge file, you know, and especially when you get from the movie houses, like they are large files and your set-top box or your TV can't play those. Your TV usually can play like 15 megabit files, you know, and they come in like huge. And especially now that we're in 4K land, I was actually up at like till 1 a.m. last night with my boss doing a huge workflow push for IMF and 4K files because now Disney is accepting deliverables for that. Oh. So that's like a huge another beast in its own. So like as the industry continues to change, you know, like we have to keep.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so like we're always like upgrading our workflows to be better and to handle more assets and to do more things because the industry is only going up and changing. And SD is kind of a
dead.
Lost. Yeah, I mean we still get SD files, but they need to be transcoded, you know, essentially into an HD file or something that, or, you know, that's why you see like the letterboxing or the pillar boxing, the black lines on certain files because they started out small and they needed to be able to expand to fit, like this is an HD TV that's behind me.
Right.
So it goes in, there's so much more that goes into it, like pixels and the ratios, you know, the video ratios and this and that and your GOP levels and your chroma levels and all that stuff that like a TV, just how it reads a video file. But it's been interesting for me to learn the video side of it because all I really know is the audio. So I remember when he first hired me, I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Like, you know, and he's like, well, that's fine. You know, you understand signal flow. Like, you understand the concept of engineering, you know, enough where like he can teach me. So, I'm very thankful for my job I have now. And my bosses are absolutely amazing. And talk about sharing knowledge. Like they just love to teach. They love to learn. Like, the feedback is awesome. Like, it's just a great work culture that I have. We're not a huge company. I think we have like a little more than 100 people. But I feel so like close to everyone, especially even working from home. They've really, really worked hard to make us all feel connected.
That's
you know?
Amazing.
Yeah, so I'm in like post-production world. So yeah, there's a path for us, you know, on this end too. And I think it's, again, I had no freaking clue. Like no idea like there was even could be something like this. And sometimes I'm a little like I feel a little overwhelmed because I'm come from such the audio world that like video stuff is really hard to grasp. Because I'm not a video editor, so it's like I don't do video editing. I'm just basically doing the behind the scenes, maintaining our automated system and making it better, you know, and then I guess just dealing with whatever the industry wants to give us. And I think especially in the broadcasting world, I've learned so much because there's recommended practices for a lot of things. Even like I mean, you're probably familiar with like the LKFS and, you know, like the peak
levels.
meters.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like there's standards that people need to set. But a lot of the movie houses and just media companies in general, like a lot of people don't follow that stuff. So like we have to build our system to be able to like deal with that.
Right.
You know, when people are sending us like you know, I have to deal with frame rates. Like, you know, I can't have like a 23.98 and have a drop frame. Like that doesn't exist, you know? So it's like people send you stuff that you're just like, what? How did this happen? Or I get like oh my gosh, I can't even tell you the audio files I get and like stuff that just doesn't make sense or it doesn't have audio.
Like 5.1 files that like have wrong things encoded into the speakers.
Like the center track is in the LFE and then this is over here and then it's just like you need to order a new asset from the studio, you know?
Right.
We just write a quick email. We're like, why? What's wrong with it? Yeah,
so this
I'm
is starting to make more sense because Rohan had told me that you and I do something
I want to be on the other end of those conversations where people are trying to explain my job to you because I would love to know what they think I do.
No, but there is some overlap in what we both do because like we deal with video and audio. So a lot of things that you're saying is starting to like make sense in my head.
Yeah, and it's stuff that like you've seen before, you know, like even if I'm going to make my own promo video, like even because I work in Final Cut every now and then, and it's like I have to know what frame rate I'm in and, you know, what codec I'm using. Like there's all that stuff. It's just I need like it's not just something I can kind of I can just be like, oh, I know that this works in 29.97, so I'm just going to leave it there. You know, now it's like no, like we are delivering final assets to like Comcast, you know, like it matters.
It's serious like business, right?
We can't package something that won't play on someone's TV, you know.
That's
so it's
like my biggest fear because like this shit goes out to the masses, and it's like, oh my god, I can't. So one of the first, like I do film restoration basically, right? So like fixing up the audio.
Oh yeah, that's right, yeah.
So fixing up the audio that was recorded in like the 70s and like early times. So one of the first feature movies that I was asked to do was a Bruce Lee movie. And like I grew up on this dude. Like I was like obsessed with this guy. So, and in my head, all I could think of was like, oh my God, don't fuck this up. Yeah. It's like, not only is this going to the masses and going to be like shipped in DVDs and streaming, it's like, this is this dude's legacy. Don't fuck this up, man. Like, he did so much for you. Don't touch this shit.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that.
It's just amazing, but it also pushes you to be better, right? That's
and I think awesome. And even for us, like to me, it's exposing me to a total different side of, you know, the industry. And it's like, wow, I can take what I've learned and all my audio skills and even my management skills, everything, and live sound, just all of that, and working under pressure.
Yeah.
You know, live sound, science sound taught me that the first day, you know? And it's incredible. So, and just to...
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So
and I get,
what
like,
is... go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just saying, I mean, back to, like, the question I get all the time is, like, well, how did you navigate the field? You know, like, that's everyone's big question for me. And I'm like, just know that there's so much more out there, you know, and that you don't have to just fit yourself down in one box. It takes time, you know, but you have to do other jobs to see if you like it or not. And I
wonder why we get stuck in that. Because I was stuck in that, too, where it's like I thought I had to be a recording, or, you know what I mean? Like, I had to do a mastering. I wonder why... Many people get stuck in that.
I think a lot of it, I don't know. I think for me personally, it was kind of how I was raised. It was like, you have to find a job and that's it, you know? And then it was just like, well, I don't want this job, you know? And then I think people define you a lot of times on your job, and like, I hate that. And like, that's like, it's like, my job does not define me. And, you know, and I think a lot of time like, oh, you're an engineer, you know? I'm like, no, let's not start that. Like, that doesn't mean I'm like above or below or anything, you know, with anyone. It's just... and I think, I don't know. I don't really actually know.
I discovered I had family here when I became a professor. So they're like, hey, come over for Thanksgiving. Like, oh, hi. Have we, like...
Actually, I don't eat food. I actually don't eat, if you knew anything about me, so...
No, I think that's partly to do with it. I also think that over the past decade... The recording, mixing, mastering engineer for the music industry has become more popular. Like, people know about it. I didn't know you could do media engineer. Like, it's not very popularized, the idea of a media engineer.
or that it even exists. I have no,
Right.
I had no idea. Like, it's like little stuff like that. It's just, it's incredible how much, there's just so many different lanes to go down. And I think, not like, I don't think anyone specifically, like, especially in school, was like, you have to do this one path, but I think we limit ourselves just in general, where it's like, no one even said that to me.
Yep.
It's just I didn't meet anyone that exposed me to that stuff. So like,
Right.
you know, cause like, I feel like I've been all over the place, like live sound and recording and mixing. And then, I mean, I've never done like mastering or I've like watched a few people do it, but I was like, not really like what I want to do. And then I'm in a theater thing, and then I'm with a guy doing sound design. And then now I'm here. Like, it's like, I had to expose myself to so many different things. And I think my personality, I get bored really fast. So like, having something like just being exposed to different stuff was like really, really helpful for me, just to be like, okay, I like this or I hate this.
Right.
You know, but you don't actually know until you know, and I think my fear was like, I don't want to be 20 years from now doing something and then hate it as much as I hated my other jobs in the past.
Right.
Like, I know I'm not always going to like love my job. You know, sometimes we have to take jobs just because we have to take care of our family, you know, and like, I'm all for that. But, yeah, like if you have the option to at least dabble in something that you kind of like, even just like being around you guys, like it exposed me to so many different people and just like your background stories and like just even musicians, just different things I could do. It opened my eyes and it made make me feel stuck, because I feel like I just spent so much of my life feeling stuck places, and and
it all kind of like kind of laid a lot of foundation for what you do now, right? It all, like, again, everything is like the next step towards another great thing, right?
Yeah, and who knows if I'll do this forever. And, you know, my bosses talk, like we all, you know, it's just, I'm so happy where I am. And like I said, it's allowed me to appreciate an awesome work culture like I have right now. And if I ever am like a manager again, you know, it makes me inspires me to want to create that environment for people, you know, because we're thriving right now, especially with like in a horrible situation as the pandemic is. Yeah. And I think it's, they really respect people's time and effort and energy. And to me, that's like what it's all about, because we're not all here living to work. And I don't want to feel like that, you know, like we have our own personal lives. And I just feel like a lot of people I work for in the past was like, no, I own your soul. No, you work for me. I'm like, but you don't pay my bills though. You don't pay my rent.
My supervisor is very, like, he's very sensitive to people burning out. So like if it's like that's Friday, awesome. 4:00, and I was like, hey, I'm ready for something new. He's like, dude, just fucking go. Like, go have a weekend. That's awesome. You know what? That fucking counts. Like, that matters.
It does. My boss is the same way. Like, even last night, we're up, you know, it's maintenance. I'm overtime. You know, we have to do it. We're up to like 1, you know, and he's like, just go to bed, you know, and I'm like, no, like, I'm in this with you, you know, like, we're going to finish this together, so you're not up for another hour, and we can go to bed in 20 minutes, you know, both of us, you know, if it's just you.
Fucking cool.
And like, they're all, I know, and even like, I'm so always like in the beginning, because I'm not used to corporate world at all, and like having sick days and vacation days, like I'm used to freelance.
401k? What?
Oh my God, I'm like, whoa, a retirement? Who am I? I feel like a whole new woman. I'm like, I have no idea how to do this. I'm freaking out. Like, and it's funny because they're like, Kirstin, like, take the day. And I was like, no, I can sign in the morning. Like, I'll just take a half day. I'll be fine. They're like, Kirstin, just take the freaking day. Like, you have it. It's yours. And I'm like, you're right. And I think, again, that's like another work culture thing that's ingrained in us, that it's like, you have all these sick days, but if you take a sick day, then it's going to make you look weak and make you look like you're not taking your job serious. And it's like, wait, no, like, I'm entitled to 7 sick days a year.
Not only legally, it's like, again, the big picture of like, you don't want to burn out. If you just play tough and don't take those sick days, you're eventually going to get resentful or tired, or you're just going to leave. And I think when jobs like yours and mine realize like, oh, wait, we have a good guy or a good girl here, it's like, we should make sure that they're okay. Like, are you okay? Like, maybe you should take, you know, that's important.
It's honestly, it's everything. And I think like I said, the money will come and we'll figure it out later. Like, I'm just at that point now where like, I like nicer things, and I do what I need to do to like keep my lifestyle. Yep. But I could live, you know, I've been in a situation where I didn't have a home, you know, like I know I can live that lifestyle again if I needed to. And I think that's that
hope
exactly. But like it's that humbling thing again, you know, where like money doesn't. I don't want money to rule me. You know, money used to rule my life, and I thought it was everything. And then now I'm like, it's great, and we need it obviously to survive. But everything usually always does work out. That's what even if I'm in a stress situation, I'm like, maybe I can't make ends meet this month. Like, it always ends up working out somehow. And to me, that collaboration and like, because we came from working, you know, where we weren't always appreciated sometimes. And I think it's huge. And it fucks with your psyche, you know, when I feel like I'm a piece of shit every day because I'm not getting that feedback, you know, where it's like, Kirstin, you look really tired. Like, you deserve a day off, you know, or just like little stuff. Like the fact that someone's seeing me and I feel seen.
Right.
And they're like, actually like, Kirstin, you don't look so hot today. You know, It's like, that is everything. Cause it's like, okay, we're not like, you know, I feel like I'm a part of this group and you're actually taking my well-being, like you were saying, into consideration, because how good of a worker am I to you if I'm running off 2 hours of sleep, I'm stressed about money, I'm in a bad mood, I'm not treating people, you know, like I'm just not myself. Like I'm not good. I'm not good.
I just need a little respect. just
like I said, all I need is this much. I'm gonna regret saying that because in the everyone's like, Kirstin, all you asked for was this much. I'm like, I know.
No, that's awesome. So like, what about your music? Like, kind of like to round it out. Like, you got into this because of music. So what's happening with you?
I know, right? And here I am.
No, but what's going on?
Yeah, I'm currently I'm saying no to everything this year. That's my new thing. Last year, I mean, I started a new job, and I think I do that a lot, where I'm like, I can take on everything, you know? And I was doing a bunch of book clubs, and then the pandemic happened and all this stuff, and I had to adjust to working from home, and like I'm joining every Zoom party with my friends and this, you know, like I feel like I'm just one of those people, like I'm a yes person and a people pleaser, and now I'm just like, this year, I'm like, no more book clubs, no more, like they're fun, they're good for me, but like I don't work on my music then, you know, because after I work my 9 to 6 job, I'm pretty exhausted, you know, and it's mentally taxing, and just, you know, obviously the stress of the pandemic is obviously taxing and stuff. So this year is my year to just really sit down. Like, I don't want to force myself to like finish any projects, because I think that's where I lose momentum, because I can't get out of that like inertia of just sitting there doing nothing. I'm just like, okay, because I'm like, well, I'm going to finish 3 songs by the end of this year. And then if I don't do it, I'm like, I beat myself up, you know? And I'm like, shit. So I'm just trying to set realistic goals. And I write all the time. I just don't finish anything. Right. And that's my biggest thing. So it's discipline for me this year of like focusing on trying to finish stuff, and also knowing that like I can't finish it all on my own, and trying to like collaborate with people when I get to that point. Like, okay, I have a shell of a song that's good, but like I don't know where to go with it from here. Right. So I'm kind of like, I'm using the name Jean. That's my middle name. So Jean, and Jean Music is like, will be my, I guess, music tag. Nice. But yeah, so I kind of figured that out like last year a little bit of like what route I want, you know, like kind of for myself. And I don't think I really like have a sound or want to like limit myself to anything. The stuff I'm writing is definitely, I don't want to say sad girl music, but it's definitely a little more ballady and kind of indie, guitar, slow piano. Nice. It's definitely, and then I have the other side of my personality, which, you know, like is trance Kirstin, you know, is the dance Kirstin with Vinny. So it's like, I always limit myself to be like, you have to, you know, just like we were saying, I can only be this person, you know, and for a while I was doing that. I was like, you can only be an you know, EDM singer. That's it. Like, you have no other paths. And it's like, well, wait, I write a bunch of other stuff. Like, right. So I'm just trying to just literally just, I don't know, like, and I like, yeah, and like I want to finish stuff, but I'm really just trying to navigate like, what do I want to do with my music, you know, like, am I really trying to be an artist? Am I just trying to sell songs to people, you know, like I do love songwriting, so maybe I'll go down that path, but yeah, so I definitely want to have like a identity of my own, which is where like Jean came from, you know, but I think I don't want to limit myself anymore to be like, I have to be just one genre, or, you know, I don't even know, or like, what if I finish a song? Should I just release it, or should I wait till I have a group of songs to release, you know? Interesting. I'm kind of in that phase now where like, I just have a bunch of stuff that's kind of recorded, not finished, and I just really want to focus on actually finishing something and knowing that it's okay, that it's not perfect, and that it's, you know, and just like letting that go. I think that's my biggest thing. All my songs are like, I can't let it go because I'm like, nope, it's just, it'll never be good enough, so I'm just not gonna even finish it, you know. And then I'll listen to it a year later. I'm like, wait, that was actually kind of good. Like maybe I could do something with it, but yeah, I think especially this year, I'm a little bit more settled into my new job. Like last year was a lot to just start a new job, go through a pandemic. I have to virtually learn now, which is really, really difficult. And learning engineering stuff is not easy, especially virtually. So it's just been, I think this year I feel a little bit more settled.
Yeah.
And especially with all, I mean, the pandemic is a horrible thing, but it's been great for live streaming and all that stuff. And kind of like people just releasing one song because they're just like, hey, this is what I did this last few months and I need to get it out. And I think that whole, I'm curious to see how the industry changes after this, especially with live sound and whether we were taping every show, are we offering that to people now? Like, I've been to a few kind of like talks and stuff like that and watched people kind of what they think is going to happen, but obviously no one really knows. So, it should be very interesting to see, but I think I'm losing the what is the correct way to say it? Like, I don't want to be put in that box where like I feel like I have to be signed somewhere and have a whole album before I can ever release something to the world. You know, like that was my perception of it when I first started. It was like, you're nothing if you just release one song. You know, what's the point of that? You're not making money from it. And I think like my goal is like not even to release money. It's just I need to get this stuff out because it's just because I need to, you know, I have the God-given ability to do it. And like, I don't need people to like it or not, you know, it's just, I need to get it out for myself because it's like,
that's huge. That's
you know,
huge.
And I think that's where I'm at now, not trying to like please other people or doing it for other people and for money at that point. And if it comes, hey, awesome. But I think my mentality of it in the beginning was, you know, was definitely skewed, and it was all about making money and, you know, being number one and this and this and that. And it's like I said before, like whoever really is number one. Yeah, you may be number one on the charts, but it's like, you know, music is just so, so different for everybody, you know, and such a different personal experience that it's like, you know, you can't ever say like one song's better than the next, you know, and it's just, so I think it's more of a personal journey, I think, for me this year, and not setting unrealistic goals because, again, that's one thing I'm guilty of, and oh my gosh, and then saying no to things. I've learned that is a big thing in my life now, saying no, because I don't need to say yes to everything. Some things you do need to show up for, but...
On that note, I appreciate you coming on.
See, things like this, right?
Yes.
I could have woke up and just said no today.
Especially since you had a late night, so double respect and double appreciation for you.
It was a late night, but it was good. We were pushing over like IMF 4K stuff. So on Monday, Disney wants 4K. They're getting it on Monday. Well, hopefully, testing went well last night, but the engineering field, anything could go wrong. Anything could go wrong at any moment. It is live all the time. So.
Oh my God. Well, look, I mean, I hope it goes well. Exploration and personal expression and music is like the one thing that I think I forgot about as well. So I think it's awesome that you're rediscovering that. Like,
and I think that's something I think a lot of us, I always tried to remind those interns too, like don't get too swept up in making money and like kind of getting like where we're at now in the field. Like we have, you know, we're in there, you know, now in a respective place where it's like we worked hard for it, but you can't forget about like why you started it. You know, if that's really why you started it. Like, and I think I lost that for a little bit. I needed to, just because I needed to make ends meet and whatever. But
I get it.
You know, you have to find that passion again, because you don't want to. Yeah, if you have the ability to create, do it. You know, and I'm like, I don't know why. You know, you get so stuck in your head, and you're like, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm like, oh my God, like.
It's natural. It's part of.
It is,
being
right?
It's yeah, totally.
So.